live! Super short stream today. I don't have time. Fuck. I think I just closed a very important work thing. I was uploading very important workday stuff. God damn it. Okay. Okay. I think... Yeah, I definitely... okay. No, I already did that. That one. Okay. Boom. Hey, what's up? How's everybody doing? Sorry, I'm an idiot and accidentally closed out of a window that I shouldn't have closed out of. Okay. I think I'm safe now. Whew. That was almost a work disaster. Hey, yeah, thank you for watching Assumptions. That's right. You know what? I was gonna play some games, but I think let's talk about that. Let's talk about Assumptions. Here, let me... fucking stupid. Boom. Oh, God. Okay, hold on. Skip.
Internet professional.
There we go. Let's move this over here. Let's make this theater mode. And then move this over here. Okay, cool. So let's talk about this, shall we? This is super fun. I'm very happy that it's out. Explain Goof Juice. We'll get there. So I'm gonna take this time to expand on some of this. All right. There's a lot of stuff that just for time got cut. We were there for like 2 hours and they cut it down to 35 minutes. Sorry, my brain's a little bit all over the place just because I've been filming all day. It's been a long day. So, Goof Juice. Let's talk about Goof Juice. So, for those of you that haven't seen, where was it? I think it was here.
They have all of us.
And
it makes it
Interesting.
a censored swear word we did in a meeting one time.
Someone put that on the internet.
No, you said it. Put it out on the internet.
no, what was it, Santi?
What was it, Santi?
Okay,
What did you do?
I was just saying that G-rated dirty talk is much
I
worse
cut
than
my hair.
rated R dirty talk. Because
Facts.
we're gonna have to cut this. So
I legit thought they were gonna cut it, by the way.
Hoo-ha with Goof Juice is so much more terrifying than anything rated R could be. Moving on.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we use Goof Juice a lot.
So Goof Juice.
So that's what made it into the story. So what had happened was, legitimately, that was the story. We were in a meeting and somehow the idea of dirty talk got brought up, right? And I was just like, it was about being brand safe and being brand safe, but then, some things are worse when you try and make it rated PG or whatever. Like sometimes you just need to say it. And then I made the example of dirty talk and I was like, it's so much more disturbing to have someone say, I'm gonna fill your hoo-ha with Goof Juice, instead of like, I'm gonna fucking come in your pussy. You know what I mean? Like, one is way worse than the other, and it's not the latter. But everyone in the meeting started just dying, and ever since then, it just became like kind of a little fun story that we all revisit, because Josiah, who's our director of digital strategy, he is like the purest soul ever. And when he heard me dirty talk, rated R dirty talk, and then rated G dirty talk, I don't think I've ever seen a human turn that red. It was honestly the greatest thing in the world. And yeah, that is the story behind Goof Juice. So now, like, when we talk about brand safety, the word goof juice will be thrown around. So yeah, let's talk about this. So the first assumption, we're all living
14
in Matt's
years?
It's
shadow.
weird.
I think so. Just to expand on my answer a little bit, like, yeah, 100%. We are all for sure living in his shadow. Because he made this thing and we are taking it over. I think the interesting thing about our situation is like people think or have made comments that we like forced him out of these channels. Like there's so many sentiments of like, oh, it's wrong with it. Even in the comment section, right? Even in the comment section here, I saw one that was like, oh my God, where is it? It's been a minute. There was one that was like, it's wrong what they're doing. Let me see if I can like control alt F it or control F it. Here we go. Let me make sure that you can see it. So I like all these people, but I wish the Theorist channels had ended with MatPat. And these people could have made their own channels. They will never be MatPat, and it's wrong to tarnish his legacy by having them on his channels. That's something that really pisses me off because again, what's wrong about us carrying this forward, right? Like he left these channels to us. It's not like he retired, decided to close down the channels, and then we decided to revive them, right? The plan was always to leave the channels to us, and we continue that. But people have this idea that like, no, he wanted to end it all and retire, and because Lunar and Corporation and whatever, us five came in and decided to fucking not let the channels die or something, which is so far from the situation. And again, I think there's a lot of people who believe that. There's a lot of people who will never let us be out of his shadow, which is a different thing entirely, right? Like there is, I'll talk about it later with one of the other assumptions, but Matt was fantastic at this because he created this. So we have to take this art form that this person created and Alley Cat, love that. We have to take this art form that he created, which is like the scripts that we write and the way we present it and everything, and try and do it to his level, which is something almost impossible, right? And the fact that we're undertaking that and people are like, how dare they? And they'll never be as good as him. It's like, yeah, no, we're not. That's why we're trying to do different shit. That's why we're trying to do fun. Like on Food Theory, I'm trying to do fun shit that I'm having fun with, even though it's not the exact same as he would have done. But even then, if I zig, I should have zagged, right? Like people are like, oh, this doesn't feel like what Matt would do. And this doesn't feel like a theory. It's like, yeah, fucking, I'm trying to do what you are telling me to do, which is my own thing. But then when I do my own thing, you don't like it, right? And so it's this weird shadow where we have to continue doing what he did, but also not do what he did. And I think Tom and Lee have that the worst, right, Steffi? Yeah, just stop existing. I think Tom and Lee have it the worst. Like for real, like all bickering jokes aside, I think Tom and Lee have the most rigidity in their shadow because those channels are so cemented, not just in the audience's eyes, but also the industry and just everyone, right? Like, did I just pop in during a rant? We're just talking about assumptions, my guy. But yeah, so they have it the worst, and I wouldn't want to be them at all. When it comes to food and style, we have a little bit more wiggle room because food is relatively new. Style started with Amy as the creative director. I joined in with Food 2 years ago. So, and Food Theory is now 5 years old. So, I've been part of it for 40% of its lifetime. And I've been a host for 20% of its lifetime. Which is crazy when you think about it. Like, I've been host of Food Theory for 1/5 of the channel's lifetime. And I've been running it as creative director for almost half. So when people, uh, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. All their research on niche topics has given them brain rot. This one, yeah, Tom would have to do, yeah. Tom and Lee are never, ever going to reach that. Like, if Tom does 13 years on game theory, I'll eat my foot. Legitimately. He'll, like, Tom will be, he's my age, right? Oh my God, it's his birthday tomorrow. Everybody say happy birthday to Tom tomorrow. Tom would be 43 by the time, or I guess 42 by the time he reaches Matt's like tenure. It's fucking crazy. I wouldn't want to be in my mid 40s doing FNAF. So like I hope Tom retires before legitimately. I hope Tom either dies or retires before he's in his 40s talking about FNAF. But anyway, all their research on niche topics. This one doesn't really pertain to me. I was quiet on this one just because like niche topics for food, meh. Of course you would, Steffi. They feel pressure to continue doing videos on the same IPs that people love. So this one we lobbed over to Lee and Tom because obviously they deal with, for those of you that don't know, IP is intellectual property. So FNAF, Marvel, all the things that they cover is IP, is someone else's IP. Whereas with Food and Style, we don't really deal with IP all that often. Like I'll do like McDonald's, but that's not really IP. That's a corporation. Like we very rarely do IP. So for us, it's not really, this question didn't pertain to us, but to talk on this, we do feel pressure to continue doing videos in the same way that Matt did them and the way that people love it there. So like, how can I put this? When I do a video that I'm more passionate about, like seasoning pans, right? It's a little more my level of cooking because that's where I'm at. I know how to cook, so I either have to do something super wacky or if I want to learn something, it's a little more advanced, and that's difficult because not everyone's at that level and nobody cares. So people will watch that video and be like, I don't care. And then they, that's it. The numbers are low and we don't do it. So what does that mean? Yeah, I do feel pressure to be like, well, I have to talk about McDonald's again. And don't get me wrong, I love to do McDonald's episodes and Taco Bell and all that, but there is definitely a pressure to do what the audience likes and not what we might think is more fun, because we do at the end of the day have to play the game a little bit and we have to do what the algorithm requires us to do. And it's a tricky situation because we want to be as authentic as we can as creators, but we have an entire company to look out for, and a company that's still growing, right? Despite what people on the fucking internet say, like the company is growing and we're doing more and more than we've ever been, that's ever like been done at this company before. And we need to keep that in mind when we do our videos. So there's 100% of pressure to do that. Let's talk about this. Let's watch and talk about this.
We're pretty tired of people commenting like we want Matt Pat back,
I mean,
The
no. So
go for it. Yeah.
So I think that those feelings are entirely understandable, right? He was a big part of people's lives for, like we keep saying, 13 years. And I get missing him, and expressing that is fine.
I think the fact is it'd be weird if people didn't miss him.
Yes,
I think
agree.
like, you know,
What Tom said here is 100%. Before I won't go into my response, what I said in the video, I'll have my own, but what Tom said is 100% correct. It would be weird if people were just like, all right, bye, because that would mean that the community that Matt built didn't really care, like that it wasn't really a community. If people were just like, peace out, whatever, so to a certain extent, 100%, like I understand that. I understand the want to have this person that you grew up with or learned a lot about or with or whatever, and missing them and wanting them to come back, especially in an era where, like, even in movies start, like, superheroes from 20 years ago are showing back up in the newest movie and stuff. So people are like, oh, I wonder if Matt will show up. And every time I allude to fucking any sort of surprise ever, people are like, it's Matt, right? If I'm like, hey, when I worked with Steven, on the grocery bag episode, I was like, I have a special guest, and people were like, it's Matt. And then when it wasn't Matt, they were disappointed. They were like, what the fuck, right? And it's like, no, dude, that's one thing. People will set up an expectation that Matt is coming back for something and then be disappointed when he doesn't, when, like, that was never in the cards. Matt is gone, right? It's not in the cards for him to come back. So people keep having these expectations and being disappointed by their own expectations when, like, it was not in reality. It's like saying, like, oh, I'm going to step outside today, and if I don't see a unicorn, today sucks. And then you step outside and you don't see a unicorn, and you're like, well, fuck, right? It's like, that's ridiculous. And yeah, so missing Matt is fine. He's the one that made these channels. There's always going to be, like I said, a shadow of Matt kind of looming over, at least for a while. Again, Food Theory, in 4 years' time, I will have been host for longer than Matt. Food Theory will have been mine for longer than Matt. So there will come a time where people, God forbid, the day I retire and the next person takes over, they'll be like, I miss Santi. And that's totally fine. It's more just how people approach it, right? I think people saying they miss Matt because it's what I said about bad faith. People will say, I miss Matt because all of you, like Santi, right? Santi, you do this experiment with just you and Claudia, and that's not a scientific experiment. Like, I'm going to be real with y'all. Nothing we've ever done on Food Theory is a scientific experiment. Like, that is 100% accurate. We do science things, right? But none of our experiments are ever going to be published in a paper. At the end of the day, it's YouTube. At the end of the day, it's entertainment. So I'll give you an example. And this ties into the commenting. People want Matt Pat back. Claudia and I did the French fry episode, right? Best oil to fry your French fries in. And one of the comments was like, you guys need to stop doing this, like, fake science, like TV science, and bring back what Matt used to do. And I'm like, first of all, Matt would regularly do things with just Stephanie and nobody complained, right? Nobody said anything. They were just like, oh, cool, they're just doing this. Whereas with me, as soon as I do something with just me and Claudia, people are like, but you don't have a large enough N size and you need to do double-blind randomized study. And I'm like, get the fuck out of here. That's literally impossible for the time frame that we do and the things that we do. We're here to entertain. We're not going to publish a scientific paper. Hey, what's up, Tom? I'm being real here, Tom. So, don't report me to the company. But I think there's a real element of people coming at us in bad faith of like, Matt would never do this. And it's like, Matt 100% did that. Or, with Tom, right? People be like, oh, Matt would have covered it this way. And it's like, Tom wrote those scripts. I think that's that's an important thing that's really annoying. So when I want Matt Pat back, if it's something like I really miss Matt, okay, that's fine. 100%. I really miss Matt, but I appreciate what you guys are doing. 100%. I appreciate it. I really miss Matt. And the way that you guys are running the channels fucking sucks, and I hope you all die. That's where you can go fuck yourself. Like, legitimately. The amount of times that I've wanted to like respond and just say like, all right, then fuck off, right? Is crazy. I don't, because I don't have time to be getting into negative shit with people I don't know on the internet, but it is something I'm very tired of. Anyway, moving on. Wish they had more
I
time of a
think-
transition period. This one was super fun.
It's a hard one because
I
the
forgot what Tom
obvious
said.
comparison is to GT Live and how
Oh, yeah,
Ash
yeah.
was brought in
Yeah.
to do that, where they had a month of Ash on the couch with Matt, and then Ash then took over the channel. Whereas there was a very clear, like, it was a Matt period, then a then period, then it's just Ash period. Whereas with us, it was very much the 10-week countdown. Whereas primarily Matt, we came in and did bits or occasionally did stuff, but overall it was just they were Matt's final episodes. And so there's an element where I sit there and I go, would it have been nice to have like more of that duet style experience where we transitioned in and the audience got to know us more?
I do agree with
But
this a little bit. I am
also,
going to thumbs up this.
at the same time, don't regret how we did it, because at the end of the day, it was
Should
meant to be
also-
Matt's send off.
Oh, no, I don't want
So
to.
we did 10 episodes each, 9 for me because we miscounted. But we did 10 episodes. that
Goodbye
were-
Internet was a video.
yeah,
Technically, yes.
yeah, but it
Tom
was-
doesn't know
it's
how to
that thing
count.
of
What an
we,
idiot.
got to do the last 10 episodes.
Oh, I
he
forgot
really
he's
wanted
here.
to do,
Maybe.
really passionate about. And I think if we had ended up being like duetted on those episodes and like sharing it, it would have taken that away from him, and he wouldn't have been able to look back at those and go like, yes, those are my final episodes I'm really proud of. Yeah.
And
Yeah, so I agree completely with Tom here. Oh, he is still here. I agree with Tom. I think for so GT Live is an interesting beast because it was always Matt's like variety show to kind of show off his personality. So Ash took over personality, and that's always hard because someone watched GT Live for Matt's personality, not necessarily for the format of GT Live. So I think Ash needed that transition period. I think without that, it would have been very jarring and kind of unfair for the audience, right? Whereas with us, we bring, hey, thank you, Vicky. Love what you're doing with the channel. Aw, thank you. I appreciate you. See, those are the comments I appreciate. Whereas with us, like I was saying, I think because they're formats, right? Food theory, game theory, film theory, like it's a formatted show. I think it's fine that we didn't have that much of a transition period. And especially, I think us watering down Matt's final 10 would have left the people feeling cheated out of Matt's final moments. And like already with the final 10, people were freaking out and they were like, I need more Matt. And so had we been in every single one of those episodes, it would have been to be fully transparent with me, Matt did want to include me as much as possible in the final ones, which is why I was in the finale. I was in like 3 of the total episodes, 3 or 4 of the final 10, because I think it was 3. Because I'm the newest addition of all the hosts, right? To the company and in general. So he wanted to make sure that people got as much exposure to me as possible in the final months. And that's why I had a little bit of an exception. So did Amy, I think. But Tom and Lee just didn't, right? So I totally get wanting a little bit more of that. It was also hard for me because like I didn't have my cutout. I think I had my animated cutout until like late 2023, and that made it hard for people to connect with me. So as soon as I could be on camera, that was a priority. Not gonna lie, one of my favorite GT Lives was the Meet the Hosts. Yeah, that one was a lot of fun. That one was also the first time we were live, like in general. So that was scary, but also super fun. But yeah, I think the transition period, I think, is something that Matt and Steph did very well, and gave us a lot of time to shine. So, there's that. Um, they wish they hosted other channels. Okay, let me talk about this one, because I know we all said no. And the answer is still no. Absolutely fucking no. Game theory, I would never touch. I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. Film theory is the only one that there's a little bit of me that I'm like, but it's film theory as it lives in my head, right? Which is doing the things that I like to do and like talking about the videos and movies and TV shows that I like to watch, right? So I would love to do a film theory style-esque thing where I can talk about movies and TV shows, but not have to, but I wouldn't want to do film theory because I don't want to talk about fucking Bluey and all the shit that Lee has to talk about, right? Like we mentioned in the video, Tom and I both have a background in traditional television and film, so we both are very knowledgeable in the space. But yeah, film theory, again, because of having to appeal to the masses and play the algorithm, it would be very tedious and doing things that I'm not really, I don't want to watch Bluey. Sorry. But film and food theory collab covering the menu. Yo, that movie is great. I love that movie. I want to collab more with Lee. I definitely want to collab more with Tom. Outside of like our bickering and like cameos in each other, I think it would be really fun to do a food and game legitimate collab. But it's hard. It's hard because we don't live in the same place, and true collabs between the channels is a difficult undertaking. So that's a thing. Sponsor. Fuck you, Trevor. Okay, this
And
is
people,
the pressure to keep
assume
it
and feel
educational.
like a lot of the videos that you do are educational. So do you feel any sort of pressure to kind of keep things maybe a little bit cleaner or trying to be more educational?
So I joked about this. This question went somewhere else because the way Trevor worded it was like, do you have pressure to keep it clean, right? And that's kind of where it went. Because 100%, there is 100% a requirement to keep it clean. For those of you that have been watching me on my stream, you know that I don't keep anything clean. So that's really hard, especially when I want to portray authenticity. I'm a potty mouth. I say weird shit. I go off the wall. So not being able to do that in film theory not being able to do that in food theory, it's a double-edged sword, because on the one hand, I have to think about the brand. On the other hand, people can sometimes tell that I'm holding back or doing something, and they're like, meh. But when it comes to keeping the videos educational, there is and there isn't. This was a really good question. I wish we had spent more time on, because Trevor's example, and I've heard this example quite a bit. When I was in school, my teacher put on a video of film theory or food theory or game theory or style theory to show a part of a lesson, right? To teach us something. And that's awesome. But I think, so yes, at the end of the day, we are an edutainment group of channels. We do want to entertain people and educate them on certain things, but it's what we choose to educate people on, right? So I think there's a pressure with food theory, to educate, but at the same time, like I mentioned with scientific experiments, we can't conduct a random double-blind study, right? What is it? Randomized. Hold on. There's a word for it. Hold on. There's a randomized double-blind trial, but there's like a word for it. um, R RD RCTs. There it is. RCT, randomized control trial. Randomized control trials are the best. Double blind randomized control trials are the best form of scientific experiment you can do. We cannot do that. Straight up, I will tell you right now, there's no fucking way that we would ever be able to do a double blind randomized controls trial. What that is essentially no one knows. So if you're measuring a variable, right? No, neither the researchers nor the actual participants in the experiment know who's receiving a treatment or a placebo, right? So there's no way for us to do that. Like, we cannot remove bias from what we do. And because of that, what we do is entertainment more than educational. Because when I test different fries, I don't have the resources to get multiple participants from all over, male, female, all types of orientations and all types of preferences and all of that stuff. We can't do that. So in and of itself, that's it, right? But I do want to educate people on, hey, are fries healthy? Don't fall for that, right? I'm just using that as the most recent example. But when we look at what was Gen Z, right? Drinking less. That video did very well. I love that it did well because I want to educate people on what drinking is. And hey, some people are going sober, and that's awesome. And there's so many things out there, but this is what it might mean for you, that the alcohol industry is going to take notice and take advantage. So that for me is the educational aspect. And I think people sometimes group it all together. And Tom, would you like to chat about this? We could chat about it. Get on Discord and people can listen to us chat. Here, I would love to ask here. I'm starting a little chat with. Oh God. Hello.
I've got to turn off
You gotta
your
turn-
stream.
Oh.
I don't have both two of you.
Hello.
Hello.
Also, hello, Bree. What's up?
Howdy, Bree.
Okay, so let me re-ask the question to you. Let me be Trevor. All right.
All right.
Is there a pressure to? I don't know. I can't do Trevor. Is there pressure to keep videos educational for you on game theory?
I think pressure is probably the wrong word. I think partly it's the brand, right? And you've been talking about this, to be fair, is we are an edutainment brand. And so like it depends on how you define pressure. It's like there is like we're an edutainment show, so therefore, yes, we should make sure that the videos have educational value. But actually that's just kind of part of what we do. Like it's ingrained. I said in the chat, it's I'm doing lore videos a lot on game theory, but even within those, we're using real world science and history to kind of mesh the two, because it's fun to be able to have people walk away from a video about, murderous animatronics or dead kids and go, I learned something interesting that wasn't just about the game. The one I always like to point to is in my first FNAF episode, we talked about the history of clowns at the circus.
Oh, that's right.
Random history facts, but it's fun trivia, and it's a fun piece of information, and it helped to answer some questions. So it had a purpose. It wasn't just there for the sake of trivia. But I think doing that is really fun and makes the videos way more interesting, being able to do that. So it's not like a pressure of I must make a video educational. Sometimes lore episodes are just lore episodes. But I think there is a desire to want to have that stuff in because it makes things more interesting.
Yeah, and I think part of you said it later on in the video about the pressure. By pressure, for everyone else listening in right now, by pressure, it's more of a self pressure, a pressure that we put on ourselves. because of the brand and whatever. It's not necessarily the audience for, especially for this assumption, this question, but yeah, it's. I'll speak for both of us, right? But forgive me if I'm wrong about you. Like for me, it's hey, I think a lot of the stuff that we do is really cool, especially when it's an experiment, right? Like if me and Claudia are doing something or we're eating pizza and I'm having my world torn asunder by realizing that Papa John's is actually the best. I want to share that, and I think that's super cool. And that to me is
Mm.
already educational, right? Is like, hey, I experienced this, and that's super cool, and I'm sharing that with you. But then I think what the disconnect is sometimes is people won't find what you think is cool to be or educational to be educational, and I think that's like I see it
Yeah.
across all the channels. Is like you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's hard, right? Because and I think from particularly you and Amy's perspective, I think you've got it harder in some senses with that. And reason for that is Matt was not an expert in those fields, in a sense. Like he started them very much as I don't know how to cook, so I'm starting a food channel. I don't know how to dress myself, so here's a style channel. And so the whole point of them was I find this interesting, and so I'm going to talk about it. Whereas, yes, game and film were started because Matt had an interest in something, and so he's like, I want to share what I find interesting.
Right.
But it was it was from a more of a stance of like being an expert in the field, right? Whereas we have then come in basically presented as the experts in our fields, and so there's like a scrutiny for you two of no, it can't just be fun anymore because you're not Matt just like trying things out to see. It's like you're supposed to know about this stuff, I guess, would be
No,
why I would think you guys have possibly have a harder time with that.
for sure. And I think the other issue is that we have to toe this line is th- there's other channels that teach you how to cook. There's other channels that teach you how to bake a cake, and that's never been what we're about. So, when we fry fries, we're not going to teach you how to fry fries. We're not here to teach you the technique. We're here to talk about the effects, right? And
Yeah.
again, that is a challenge because sometimes people will be like, "Oh, but I want to know how you made it." It's like that. I get that, but that's not the point. Like prim cake. Let's talk about prim cake. People want that recipe, and I'm like, first of all, why? Second of all, that's not the point. Like,
Yeah.
we didn't talk about the recipe in the video. Like, we talked about a little bit, but I didn't like list out what we were doing because that wasn't the point, right? But yet some people are like, no, but I want that. So yeah, it's a weird line that we have to toe. Okay, now that I have you,
And sorry.
no, go finish your
I was just
finish
going
your
to say to finish, just round that up as well, because the flip side of it as well is on the times where because Matt was thorough on occasion. There were times where he would go really, really big on something, and like a good example of that was when we did the tea episodes.
Mm.
He went super hard on that episode, and it was one of those things where I wrote that experiment like a year before we filmed it. And then we came back to it when I was in Raleigh, and it was a case of like, oh, we should do this episode. And then as we went, we realized there were like more variables. And so Matt was like, oh, okay, we need to like account for these variables, which I think some of them even like ended up getting cut anyway because it became too complex. And it then meant that it took us an extra like 3 hours to film, which we just don't have that capacity to have a production be that like to delay that much anymore. Like again, we didn't really have it back then, but
Right.
Matt was the boss, and so Matt can make that call. Whereas we're like, hey, we've got like 3 other scripts to write. We can't have a shoot that's meant to take an hour take 4.
I mean, I think to that, because I think it goes for you and Lee as well, right? Where you guys might want to expand. Part of our scripting process is always what can we cut, right? Because the
Mhm.
scripts have to be tight, YouTube, otherwise people just click off. And one of the reasons why I would never want to do FNAF or just game in general or film in general is because it would be so hard for me to know what to cut. And because it's like, well, now I really want to explain this, which means I need to explain that, which means and I feel that with food, like you were saying with the experiments, where I mean, literally today, I was filming something. I've been filming for 5 hours and haven't even gotten halfway through. And within filming, I realized, oh shit, there's another variable that now I need to cover tomorrow. But will that affect, you know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
sometimes we do need to say no and put the
Yeah.
limit, and sometimes the audience doesn't understand that and there's a disconnect. But my question to you would be,
Mm.
do you feel that with game theory, or not really, when it comes to like, ooh, I want to go down this rabbit hole, but it would just open another can of worms? Or is that not really a thing that happens?
It can. It really depends. I think often I tend to be a bit of just a don't think, just write kind of guy,
Mhm.
where I just write an entire script and then I will go back with like fresh eyes and look at it more critically, and that's when I tend to cut a bunch of stuff. Um because there are times where it's like, oh, I want to. Yes, I think the short answer is yes. There are times where that happens. I'm working on a script right now where there there was a detail. There are a couple of small details which I'm like, these are feel really cool and like really cool things we could explore. Um, but it's just going to detract from the main flow of the episode in a way that's either confusing or doesn't add to like the final conclusion. It's just a fun fact.
Right.
But like if it can be done in like a line of like, oh, fun fact, this is a thing, cool, and move on, then great. And I sometimes try and put those in. But if it's like oh no, this takes explaining and justification, but it kind of doesn't lead to anything or doesn't add to anything, or just like detours too quickly from like the very linear flow of the episode, then yeah, stuff's got to get cut. I think game theory is in a different spot in the sense that our episodes have always been slightly longer. And that's just the way that gaming videos work on YouTube and the
Right.
algorithm for that. So we've done we do shorter episodes occasionally, but we've always noticed they don't perform as well as longer videos, like the sort of 10 minutes versus 20 minutes. And so there is a little bit more leeway for me to do the whole, I'm actually going to explore some bigger things. But we're also dealing with very complex topics like FNAF, which require more explanation often in order to go, this is how I connected these dots together, trust me.
Yeah.
Whereas if I cut all that explanation, no one's going to believe me.
It's an interesting thing, right? Because with food,
Yeah.
I always want to try and make my videos a little bit longer, but
Mhm.
because YouTube, right? And everybody's sitting on their
Yeah.
couches, and longer videos equals better performance or whatever. But with food and the science that we dig into, sometimes that means going too deep and going, it's like it can very easily turn into, go from like high school science to like deep college level. And we'll do that on occasion, obviously, if like we've covered something like spice, right? We've done spicy so many times that we can dig deeper, but we can't do that with everything. So it's really hard to expand on certain things, because sometimes we need to boil it down. We need to make it simpler for the audience to digest, and that means um shorter episodes. But before, I don't want to like hold you forever, but I do have one comment here in the chat from Ham Fernelli. I'd love to hear Tom's perspective on the argument of too much lore videos / the ratio of lore videos to science videos. See as much as you wish, or say as much as you wish. I have
Yeah.
thoughts on that as well. So
Yeah.
quick
I
answer
think
from you.
Yeah, no, it was one of those this was one of those questions that we thought would come up but didn't actually during that assumptions shoot. Would have loved to have dived into that more. I think it is one of those things people I will recognize that I think the last 3 months, basically sort of Halloween through to February or November through to Feb. So 4 months was quite lore heavy. Now, some of that is catching up from like people have recency bias and they'll go, oh, it's all lore videos now. And it's like, it's only been lore videos for like a couple months, but it's because we're catching up from Halloween, which has a lot of indie horror lore games that come out. And so we kind of have to play catch up for a few months. You've also got the challenge of like, again, there wasn't a lot in terms of other titles we wanted to cover. So when we covered like Sonic or Zelda, those also happened to be lore videos. And so it just meant that the lore kind of stacked up. But actually, if you look over the history of the channel, the ratio is not dissimilar from what Matt did. It may be slightly more lore, like maybe 5 or 10% more lore than what Matt did, but it's actually very, very similar. This change from science videos to lore videos is a change that happened like 5 years ago.
Right.
And before I like started at the channels, and part of the reason I was hired for the channels was because we had a lot of science writers at the time, but I understood how to write lore and story. And so I was brought on specifically to write those videos. And so that change has been around for a while, and I think people naturally, like when Matt left, they were sad and they're looking back at the old days. And some of Matt's like iconic theories are old math science videos, but we hadn't done math and science videos more than once a month, once every 6 weeks for the last like 3 or 4 years. There was occasion where they might double up because we just needed extra videos, but overall that was pretty much the cadence, which is the cadence we are trying to somewhat stick to. I think part of the challenge we face is one, we don't want to keep repeating ourselves. So, we've done Link's hook shot. So all of that math and equations have been done, and we don't just want to do another video about a different hook shot that just copies those equations and it's just the same thing but with slightly different numbers attached, right?
Yeah.
Because that just feels repetitive, it feels boring, it's less interesting for the audience because they're not learning something new. And again, as we kind of talked about with the educational stuff, we want to make sure they're learning something new each time, and so there's like additional stuff that you can add to it.
Well, and I think there's something also that people take for granted, I think, which is our editing. I think it's such a staple of our brand and our videos, and part of the reason why people love the channel so much is how well our editors kind of go in there and do their thing. And I don't think people understand how much time it takes to do that. Also, our writing, right? Like, I think people, when it comes to the lore videos, they're like, why do you do so many lore videos? Well, this world of indie horror moves so fast that we have to kind of push these out.
If you don't cover it within 2 to 3 weeks, your video will die.
Yeah.
Like especially in the indie space, unless you have a massive IP like FNAF or Poppy or something that will kind of maintain its relevance, these videos live and die by whoever is like, you'll see it with Let's Players. Right. Whoever is the first to do like the indie horror Let's Play, let's say, is it Dorco? Is it Super Horror Bro? Is it 8-Bit Ryan or Manly Badass Hero? The person who does it first, their video does really well, and the others all suffer
100%.
if they're not first.
Yeah.
And so like we end up, it takes us at least 2 to 3 weeks to get a video out. So we cannot be the first, which means our videos have to be good, but it also means we have to hit them as fast as we can in order to hit as close to the eye and being hot as it can be. Otherwise, it's just wasted time and effort on everyone's part of the company.
Well, and the time you're done by, like, with the video that you're working on, something new has popped out. Because again, this world of indie horror just goes by so quickly that there's always something new popping up. So like by the time you're done with the FNAF video, there's a new Poppy thing, or once you're done with that, there's something else that you need to latch on. So people are like, oh my God, it's lore. And it's like, well, but that's kind of the nature of the business and what we do.
Which is why partially I, like I say, I try to get some math and science into indie horror stuff because it allows us to kind of do that while still sticking with the stuff that works. But at the end of the day, if you like really want to look at like from a business perspective, like why indie horror, like why we do lore and indie horror, you can look at the channel and look at the view counts. Like sadly, it's like I love Shadow is a Genie. That is a stupid episode, and I love it to pieces. I think it's a fantastic episode, but it didn't perform as well as like other indie horror games or lore episodes. And so math and science and old school IP like Nintendo fall into that same bucket of just not performing quite as well as like the newer indie horror stuff. And so we want to do them occasionally because they're fun and they're interesting. But as I say later on in the video, we have, you know, people that we have employees that we have to make sure are paid and fed and all those things. And so we can't like it's a lot of effort to put into an episode which doesn't allow us to generate the income that we need to sustain ourselves.
Yeah.
Which I think is just something that people like don't quite take into account, is just that side of things as well, which I get, and it's hard because it's like those episodes are really fun and we love doing them. We wish they did better, but it's just not the way that YouTube goes. I loved getting to talk about Ratchet and Clank. That was totally selfish of me to get to talk about that. But the video, you know, you then do a video the next week and it doesn't perform as well. A really good example of it is actually when we did the Minecraft Mace episode. Our Minecraft videos do pretty well, but you can see in the retention, as soon as I say the words "the science," people went, "Oh, this isn't a lore video," and the views dipped harsh at that
Really?
moment. Yes.
Oh my
Because
god.
people go, "Oh, it's Minecraft. I'm here for the Minecraft lore." And then as soon as I said we're going to figure out the science behind the mace, suddenly we saw just a retention drop and people left the video.
It's so funny
And
that people will say they want one thing and then
yeah,
it's a
and I
vocal minority, right? Yeah.
100%, 100%. And it's like it's people that are super passionate that want to voice their opinions, and I like totally get it, and it can be useful to hear. Again, like you kind of call out in the video, it's like there are good and bad ways of phrasing those things, and so it's important to hear those, and so it's why we still do them, because I like doing those episodes. There is a subsection of the audience that likes doing this episode, so we want to do them occasionally, but there's the vocal minority and then there's the silent majority, and the silent majority speaks with their views,
Right.
and so that is just something we have to take into account when we're making episodes.
Yeah, and I mean, I think there's also there's a big factor in all of this, which is like the audience truly does have less goodwill with us or like faith with us. So I always bring up the example of like if I did bread gloves, that
Yep.
I would get people being like, no, this would never be something that Matt would do or something. Like people wouldn't
Yep.
be along for the ride, right? And that's something that's going to come with time, but and this is something that
Yeah.
I think was cut that we mentioned in a separate like context, but I think we and the audience forget how short of a time it's been. Like it's only been a year, which does seem like a long time, but it's a very little amount of time to build up a relationship, right? With the audience and whatever. If you look at Matt's tenure, right? And you look at the first year that Matt was doing game theory, he was at like what, maybe how many 100,000 followers? Like nothing. Like the views he was getting was nothing compared to 10 years down the road. And by then people are bought into Matt Pat, woohoo, give a game to the Pope, right? Whereas with us,
Yep.
we almost start like he started here, we started like 4 levels above, but now we need to have the audience buy in 4 levels above. So it's a really interesting kind of dynamic.
For sure. It's
that-
why
yeah.
it's why like when I've done again, when like starting with FNAF and Poppy videos, it was that thing of these franchises are insane, but I have to keep them grounded because people need to buy into me and that I can do this. My most recent Poppy theory is insane. It is truly insane. But I've built with that particular franchise, I've built up enough goodwill to be able to now go, here's the out there idea. But that takes a lot of time. And again, it's only because I have put a lot of effort into being the Poppy guy and like selling that idea to the audience as well. Whereas, yeah, like Shadow as a Genie, people weren't going to buy into it in the same way that they may have done if Matt did it, because they don't know who I am, don't trust me, haven't built that relationship in the same way. So
Yeah.
it is one of those things that it takes a lot of time to do, but people are looking at these channels as 13-year-old channels and going, I expect to trust you and like feel about you the same way I feel about Matt 13 years on,
Yeah.
and that's just not how it works.
Well-
Which is hard.
And I think so. I don't want to keep you for your entire evening, so I'll keep you for
Yeah, you're
5
good.
more minutes, and I want to. I'm gonna answer an assumption that I see a lot, and it didn't come up, but it's more appropriate for this setting. People often assume that everything we're doing now is Matt having sold off the company, and it is the corporate
Mm.
overlords that are controlling our every move, and that we
Mm.
are just stooges. So what I'll say to that is, I think people overestimate how much Lunar, the company that Matt sold Theorist channels to, how much they do in terms of how much they're involved in our day to day and how much power Matt had. I see a lot of people kind of being like, oh, well, Matt sold off the channels and that was it. It's like, no, Matt had so much control, like all the control. Matt made the decisions. And then now that we're here, we also don't have anybody looking over our shoulder telling us, like, again, all the pressure really comes from us wanting to keep everyone employed. And Lunar, there's been growing pains, but I think people blaming everything bad and being like, oh, this is so corporate now. It's like, I think there is a level of this company has matured a lot from just Matt on his laptop in a closet to dozens of employees and a lot of things that we're trying to do. And I think people attribute that to bad corporation instead of, company naturally growing and doing cool things that they couldn't do with Matt or whatever. And I think that for me is always frustrating because I feel like it's kind of insulting to us because we choose to do certain things. Or I remember when Liquid Death came out, people were like, oh, this is Lunar, this is the corporation, and Matt would never do this. It's like, no, that was actually me and a decision of our packaging team to do that title, and we thought it was, and clearly it worked, but that was me. And guess what, a lot of decisions before Matt left were also us. And I think people definitely don't take that. So yeah, that was the assumption, was that everything bad is the corporate overlords.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of, again, because it's people and to some understandable level not understanding just how like the behind the scenes of YouTube works. So like one of the comments I saw on this video is talks about how, oh, I fell off when I realized like oh, Matt left, and then like the new host, talking about me, was saying about how he has like a team sitting around like thinking up theories, and so it feels less authentic. And it's like, I joined Matt's writing team 3.5 years ago, or 4 years, no, 4.5 years ago. Like he had that writing team for a lot longer than before I joined. So like the idea that, and again, I think it's that idea of, oh, well, corporation bought Theorist, and then suddenly here's a bunch of writers, so now they're all coming up with it. Instead of like Matt. It is like Matt wasn't coming up with 3 theories a week for every channel. Like it's never how it's worked. Even from an ideation standpoint, we always take pitches from writers, because often writers have really interesting perspectives and really different stuff, and it's great. So like that's a common one that I see. But I also just think like the whole, even like Matt's retirement got pinned on, oh, this is the corporation forcing him out, or whatever. Oh, it feels so corporate because now we've got 4 hosts rather than 1 host. doesn't feel like, it feels like the corporation coming in and like taking control. It's like, no, that was all Matt.
Yeah.
If anything, like the corporation would have loved Matt to have stayed more as host,
Yeah.
But Matt put his faith in us. Matt trusted us. And like when I was brought on again 3.5 years ago, the plan for Matt to like leave and to hand off to like a bunch of new people had been like started for a few years at that point. Like this was not a quick decision. I think Lee said in the video, like we all knew about it for a couple years. Like
Yeah.
this process was not and Luna only got bought a year, or only bought the channels like a year before Matt's retirement.
Yeah, a couple of months before I joined, because I joined in March of 2023, and I think I remember watching the video that he sold the channels in like November 2022. So yeah,
and so it's that thing of going, these decisions are not quick decisions. The company couldn't really come in and just make those swinging changes because there are contracts, there are various bits and bobs like that, right?
Yeah.
But it's just that thing of they also trusted Matt and wanted and aren't involved in the creative and that side of the operation of the channel. They're much more on the business sense. They were helping us with finances. They were helping us to find more employees, to hire Santi, for example,
legit,
and those sorts of things. So like Santi wouldn't have been hired. We wouldn't have found Santi if it wasn't for the corporation, for Luna. And so it's that sense of, yeah, I think a lot of people go, oh, it feels corporate because of XYZ, but it's like, actually, this was always the plan from Matt. It was just the corporation, like the buyout of the corporation and getting that sort of assistance from Luna was in order to help initiate and help make the plan happen.
Yeah.
But it was always Matt's plan.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. The plan was always going to happen. It was just they gave the resources to. I think the other thing that, like, to what you were saying, part of the assumption, and I see it on Reddit all the time, people use this as like the gotcha point of like, oh, well, now they all do the finger point thing, and that's because it's corporate. And I think Matt shot us in the foot a little bit with that, because he did do a GT live where he was like, I told them not to do it and they did it, and now people kind of use that as like, look at that, whatever, to fuel whatever argument they have,
which is ironic because when we're like, here's the real tea, is we had we were trying to pick our poses and figure out what we did, and it was a group decision, including Matt, Steph, Jason, and all the seniors, that we should continue the brand and stick to the brand and have the finger point.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
So it's part of that, right?
It's a thing that, like, again, we all alluded to in the video a lot, was there is a brand and a legacy that we want to continue to honor, and like we in our own little ways, right? And we were never going to come in and change Hello Internet, right? And full disclosure, when in our training that we talk about in the video that we did, like months of training, Matt sat us all down and was like, change whatever you want to change, just like keep the spirit alive. And we all were like, relax. Like, there are things that we gotta keep the audience, with us, and like we can't just, and we don't want to, because we all love what he built and don't want to just suddenly change it to. I remember with me, I had a really hard time getting my own version of Hello Internet, right? Because I wanted to keep copying him, and I was doing a really bad impression of him. And he was like, what if you were just like, what up, Internet? And I was like, no, that's so bad. And he's like, yeah, just change it to like, yo, and that's it. And I think if people knew that, their heads would flip, because they'd be like, no, what? How? There's no way he told you all that, or whatever, right? And yeah, it's the same with the finger point. Like, I don't like my finger point because I never realized how straight my finger was when I did it. It really does look like 007 a little bit too much. But yeah, it's just one of those things that people make very big assumptions with very little information. And
yeah, I think there's and it's one of those things like, damned if you do, damned if you don't, where and like there's literally a comment along these sorts of lines, I think, on the video about how, oh, I'm so glad they're not trying to be Matt Pat, but them not being Matt Pat ruined the channels. And it's that contradiction of like, there's been a lot of backlash of, oh, they're trying to be Matt with the finger point. They're using his same opening lines and his ending lines and those catchphrases. But then if we didn't do that, there would also be a lot of people who were very upset about that, because it then wouldn't feel like game theory anymore. It wouldn't feel like food theory anymore.
Yeah.
And so it's a constant balance, but it's that thing of, we can literally see a thing on the subreddit that goes, oh, they're all trying so hard to be like Matt with his jokes and his attitude and his inflections. And then in another post, like the next post is, oh, they all changed everything too much. I don't like how they say things compared to how Matt said them. And it's just like, so there's kind of, in that discussion, there's no no real winning. We just kind of are where we are, and which is why we want to stick to the brand, because there is a brand and identity and a show format. So it's like the hello internet, and but that's just a theory, is part of the format. You open the episode with that, you close the episode with that. It's like any TV show, like any sort of old show or radio show where they would do that. But then there's us being true to ourselves, like within those. We just need some time to like build up that relationship with the audience, so that they're bought into us. Whereas I think in the early thing, it's like they don't know who we are, and so if we come in just like, I'm changing everything and I'm going to be more just me completely, there would have been like a massive culture shock, more than there already was, right?
Yeah.
So it was trying to help, but
no, and it's just really interesting. Like as a final thought on that is like it's this thing where the best way I can put it is like when you read a book and they do an adaptation of it, you have this idea of what the characters look like and how certain events play out in the book. And then when the movie adaptation does it differently, and people will automatically be like, that sucks, right? Or if it does it the exact same, but it doesn't look the way you expect it to, you're like, oh, that still sucks, right? And it's kind of the same thing with us, is like, we are not necessarily adapting the work, but we're taking it and essentially adapting it where we're making our own and continuing on with it, right? And I see it less as like a season 2 and more as I see it less as a reboot and more of a season 2, where we're just taking season 1 and kind of continuing in a new direction. And people have this idea of what a theory was and what Matt would do and whatever. So that's where it comes from. It's like this cognitive dissonance where suddenly what they're now getting is different from their schema of what a theory was or what Matt would do. And I think that's just a really poignant thing to realize, is like how deeply people have theorists and theories ingrained in them, that when we provide something that's slightly different, they get really upset by it. And I think that's something beautiful, but at the same time, I think it just like we as hosts have had to legitimately, like, to the audience, mature and not read comments, and just even Genji agrees. Not read comments for our own. Yeah, he's the best, for our own mental health, and like mature in our hostship from episode 1 to now, right? Like I look at my old episodes, we were talking about it in the video, horrible compared to what I am now. I think the audience, a lot of the audience, also has their own journey to go on, and is just in the growing pain phase of that journey, where they don't know what to do, because they feel like letting go of Matt is a bad thing, but accepting us is also a bad thing. And I think with time, a lot of them will kind of, I don't want to say mature, but a lot of them will get into accept this new reality and accept the things that we're going to do. And I think last year for a lot of us was a lot about keeping everything afloat and making sure, like, hey, nothing's going to change. I said it, like, nothing's going to change. It's just, we are here now. And now it's about evolving and not necessarily changing things, but evolving, trying new things, throwing things at the wall and see what sticks. Because now all four of us, all five of us, can show the authentic side of who we are as individuals and how we will really differ from Matt in our eras. But
Yeah.
but yeah, it's an interesting road. But anyway, thank you for hopping on and letting me steal like 40 minutes of your evening. Sorry, Steffi. I apologize.
All
But
good. Always a pleasure.
now get out of here so I can rant some more.
Sounds good. All right. I'll catch you later.
Bye. Happy early birthday.
Thank
You
you.
have a surprise coming your way tomorrow.
Oh, no.
Oh, wait. You're not at. Oh,
I'm at the office tomorrow.
no, I know. I need to text Steffi. Okay, bye.
Bye.
He has something coming his way and he has no idea. So I'm gonna keep this short. I'm gonna keep this stream short. Oh God, now I made this so big. Where is it? Oh my God, there we go. And whoop. Disappointedly. So to finish this off, and just because there's a lot of things that were unsaid in this video that I wanted to just continue the thought of. I think I just mentioned it with Tom. A lot of people will make very big assumptions, pun absolutely intended, with very little information. And it happens it's not just with us, it happens all over. If you look at the film industry, you see people making huge assumptions, not knowing what is actually going on. I was talking about this exact same thing with a friend the other day, and I use the example of like reshoots in movies, where a lot of times reshoots happen for so many reasons. Continuity, or they want to add a scene, or they want a million different reasons that they'll do reshoots. The lighting was weirdly off and they need to reshoot it, blah, blah, blah. So they'll reshoot, and it's expensive. It's expensive as fuck because, again, as someone that has seen the back end of this, you have to hire casting crew. Like with the cast, it's usually in their contracts, but crew, you have to hire crew. You have to get caterers, insurances, waivers, permits, all this stuff all over again, depending on what the reshoot is. And that can be so many millions of dollars. But people have it in their heads that reshoots, bad. Reshoots mean the movie's going to suck, when that's not the situation at all. And you don't know what the meaning for reshoots are. And it's the same thing with us. I feel like a lot of people will do a lot with very little information and think that they know how things are going and how things work behind the scenes when they don't. What Tom said was 100% correct, is people will look at, oh, well, Matt sold the company, and that little piece of information, they'll make wild assumptions and get to wild conclusions out of that. And yeah, I think that's the most frustrating thing for me, is like, I'll be on Reddit, and again, I try not to go on the subreddit too much anymore for my own mental health, because I get very angry. But I think when I do go on there and I see that, it's really frustrating, because, you know, it's not the case, and people assume the worst from it. So the conclusions that they assume are all the bad ones. And whenever we do something good, it's like, oh, okay, cool. You know, Tom did the Ratchet and Clank, and people in the comments were like, oh, yay, finally. And then that's it. They'll just forget about it. And like, the accomplishments are understated, and anything that they see as falling short is blown completely overboard. So that's kind of my thoughts on the whole thing. Oh, and the bickering. Oh, jeez. Let's finish it off with the bickering, shall we? We all very much like each other. Don't worry. I think there's so many times where I've seen so many um posts on Reddit of like, I don't understand the beef with Tom and Santi, and I don't understand why they're so mean and blah, 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 blah. And hey, Akira, thank you for the sub. I don't know why that's so far. There we go. But yeah, I think people don't get that that's just how we are, and we love hanging out with one another. Like, we don't get to very often. Oh, Akira, sorry, Tom left, so sucks to suck. Now you're here for me. We don't get to hang out, so when we do hang out, it's a lot of fun. We always like to do a lot of really cool stuff, and we are friends, and I think that's the one thing that I will say Matt knocked out of the park. Like, I think Matt wasn't perfect. He was human. I think some of the transition stuff, like maybe I would have done different or not or da da da. But it's okay, Akira, go. But him finding us four and choosing us four was the best thing he ever did in this whole transition period. Because not everyone would actually get along like this. Truly, not everyone would become friends behind the scenes. People would have, on screen, they'd be friends, but they wouldn't actually have much chemistry. Whereas we all have genuine chemistry and we all genuinely get along, and it shows, right? At least I think it shows. But what do I know? Because there's people in the French fry episode saying that me and Claudia have no chemistry, so it is what it is. But yeah, I think it was such a happy accident, us four really getting along and becoming friends, so, and not just colleagues. And that's the reason why I see myself doing this with these people for as long as we get to do it, right? And it is a blessing. It is a gift to be able to do this job. For all of the assumptions, for all of the shit that we have to deal with, this job is the weirdest, best, worst, most beautiful, fucked up job that I've ever had. And being able to do it with people that you like on top of that is a whole other, pro to deal with. And, I know we talk a lot about the audiences, or the audience that makes assumptions, but the few of you here and the audience that is along for the ride, like, you have no idea how grateful all of us are for you, because there are days where we want to do something selfish and we're like, we can't because the audio, whatever, and it's you guys that really get us through. Because at the end of the day, it's about the community, and what we care about the most, all four of us, is not fame. It's not money. It's not anything like that. It's really keeping this alive and keeping the community alive, keeping the theorist community thriving, and keeping you all curious. Because we were theorists, we were all fans, and here we are. And we just want to pay it forward, keep that going, and just keep curiosity alive in everybody's minds. And again, part of the mission statement for us has always been, for Matt, for us, has always been showing people that everyone's a geek. Everyone's a theorist. Everyone, it doesn't matter about what, whether you're playing fantasy football or, playing Marvel Rivals, you are a theorist. You're, as soon as you ask the question about it, like, ooh, what is the best wide receiver to play in this, to put in this position, or to put in this game? That's it. You're a theorist. Or Marvel Rivals. Hey, what is whatever? I don't know. I haven't played Marvel Rivals really. But point is, like, as soon as you have any of those curiosities, you're a theorist. And we want to share that with the world. And we want to share our own personal curiosities with the world. With me, with food. Like, everything that we've done. And I think that's what people don't get is, like, sure, some of the episodes we've done have been out of necessity or out of legitimately sometimes we need to like talk about the things that are happening even though we don't want to or whatever. It's like we got to talk about it. It's a big thing. But every video that I've done since I've joined has been something that I really wanted to talk about or really wanted to explore, I think is really cool. And people will still be like, he doesn't sound passionate. He doesn't have the same passion that Matt had. And that sucks. But because we do. And that's fine because at the end of the day, it's about proving it. And that can only happen with time. And I think little by little, the more we show of ourselves as people beyond the camera, beyond the theories, like with an assumptions appearance or when you see us at VidCon or whatever, that's when that relationship will truly start to happen. That's why I started using social media. I never used Instagram, right? But I made an Instagram for this job so that I could show people a little bit more about me and, just be a little more goofy and normal. Not normal, but be a little more what is normal me, which I don't get to do. Again, like, I don't know if you've noticed, I talk very differently, candidly, than I do in a video. Because in a video, I'll be like, oh my God, this is super cool. But I don't talk like, surprise, I don't talk like that all the fucking time. I don't go around walking down the street like, hello, stranger, welcome to the sidewalk. But yeah, anyway, the point is we're going to be here for a long time. So whoever's not along for the ride, not along for the ride. The reality is we're here to stay. MatPat is dead. And and that's just a theory. But that honestly, that's kind of everything I wanted to cover with this video. I'm happy that we got to say what we got to say. And I'm happy about the overall reception. I think people have been super cool about it. And thanks to Anthony and everyone there that had us. That was super cool. And we're looking forward to more. So, woo! The joke I made about, hello, waiter. Yeah. I'd like, yeah, it was very, very cool. But yeah, anyway, this is going to be a short stream today. I'll probably cut this off now just because I've been filming all day. I am very tired and I have a long day of filming tomorrow. So that was an assumptions recap. Oh, wait, there is one final thing that we needed to talk about, which is
Assume that you are
wait.
your favorite theorist's favorite theorist.
Yes. So, hey, thank you for the follow. I am unequivocally your favorite theorist's favorite theorist. That I don't know how else to put it. I don't think Tom's here anymore, so I could say it. Every single one of them loves me. And there is a reason why I am that bitch. All right? There's a reason why I'm that bitch. It's because I'm your favorite theorist's favorite theorist. But yeah, that's all there is to it today. I'm gonna be back. Oh fuck, he's still here in the comments. I'm gonna be back next week, and once again, Easter Monday, I'm gonna be doing an all-day stream, and we're gonna do some shit. I don't know what's gonna happen. It's gonna be weird. I'm gonna be there for so long. I'm going to be playing League for a lot of it, but I'm also going to be doing some cool things, some wacky things. I want to eat Chipotle on camera. Like, let's have lunch together, shall we? And yeah, so whenever you're free, hop in, hop out. It'll be a good time. Anyway, peace out. Bye.